Well, hello, welcome to ILoveGay today. And we are here with someone I've come to know over the last few years, primarily through LinkedIn and social media connections, Darren Stehle from Toronto. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm so happy to be here. I was saying to you as we were setting up, this is the first time I've been interviewed in a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, in fact, it's fun to say this is turning the tables around because you actually, what I was going to point out is not only turning the tables around, you're really good. I mean, you're out there and by the way, he's a transformational coach and but in the world in the LGBT business world, helping other business leaders kind of learn more about themselves, improve life and so forth. But what's interesting is that you are everywhere. You're on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. You've really covered all that. But then, of course, you and I connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it seems like with social media, you've got to be everywhere, but not so spread thin in the sense of, I guess, deciding what is going to be your primary platform and in how are you going to disseminate the information for not all of the audience, but why the platform. So LinkedIn started to make more sense for me. And you and I had this discussion that um, so much has changed. Facebook has changed a lot. Twitter's kind of sort of stayed the same. There's some things that have changed about perhaps the dynamics of interaction.
Yeah.
Now that Facebook owns Instagram, that has really changed. And so in that I'm seeking engagement, I have a message and ideas that I want to share, whether it be something around productivity or personal development in the largest sense, or are niching down more into like queer creativity and advocacy.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize there was a wealth of individuals and thought leadership that was on LinkedIn that I was missing.
Yeah.
I was on it for years, but I wasn't interacting.
And not only interacting, but you're able to engage with and share ideas. I mean, you're very, and that's to me is really the key. And that's why I said it's fun that the tables are turned because you also even have a show as well, and you interview various folks and you kind of help bring their stories to light.
Yeah, thank you. So my primary podcast is Think Queerly.
Yeah.
It'll be 4 years this June. And I think I'm up to 222 episodes. I think it was 222 or 220 that I just published this week. And I did an
Yeah.
interview with Tim McCaskill, he calls himself a gay dinosaur because I think he's in his very late 60s, early 70s, like 60 years basically of queer activism in the Toronto area. And that show has evolved over the years because I've evolved over the years. It started out as the Living Out podcast when I was focused on I guess working through a lot of my stuff, but having overcome a lot of gay shame and acceptance and such, I thought, oh, I want to work with primarily gay men or gay by trans men on some of these issues. And then it just started to grow. And my understanding and interest in queer issues and politics and leadership and social change, it just demanded an expansion. And then it eventually morphed into Think Queerly. And
Yeah.
my gosh, I've covered so many different topics, I can't even keep track.
Well, from the outside looking in, it almost seems like a lot of your life's work and passions have come together into something that allows you really to, I mean, you're helping others to realize this, but it seems like you've also realized it for yourself as well.
You know, um, uh, in that I work as a coach, I'm considered a MindMap transformational coach. That's it, like the certification. I've studied the neuroscience of transformational coaching,
Yeah.
and many of the coaches I follow, and many people in the personal growth, personal development sphere, whether they're just speakers or whether they're actually teaching the modalities for transformational change, behavioral change.
Yeah.
Many of us are attracted to this because we've been seeking answers to our own questions. I recognize I have been someone that has led a life of self-examination as long as I can remember. And I've had my, what do you call it, like pivot points where I had just some major breakthroughs. I mean, I started out attracted to Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar. I had a short foray into network marketing way back when. And that was all about, you've got to like grow yourself to be more likable, to be more presentable. I gave up the network marketing. I held on to the personal development.
Yeah.
And that led into so many ways of understanding and changing sort of my own behaviors as a result of just seeing reflections in the world of what I wasn't getting. Like if I was getting a negative response from other people, then that was on me. And so I had to figure out what I needed to change about myself. And that just became a further passion, which also became my primary profession.
It all makes sense. In fact, I understand it from this perspective that I was just interviewed earlier this morning too. And someone was asking me, it was more of a big picture talking about, my business life and so forth. But they were asking like, kind of trying to secrets that like, how did I make it work? But I always told them, and it's probably similar to what you deal with, which is that I said a big part of it is just being able to understand people. If you understand people, and then of course you're understanding the technology that's that we have available to us today, and then seeing where all that can go in kind of the near future with people and understand. Yeah. And I don't think everybody always thinks that through as much. I think they're always thinking about their nice shiny little widget or whatever idea they've had, and they can't wait to get it out there. But it's really understanding people in my view.
I think there's two words: understanding and communing are sort of my favorite sort of internal in my mind all the time buzzwords. I mean, I'm also I really geek out on studying the Tao Te Ching because I'm fascinated by the approach it takes to leadership and morality that's not didactic. It doesn't tell you what to do. It really gives you simple but sort of binary examples that you have to think about and ponder and make your own decisions. But understanding etymologically, the history of the word is about standing under to support. And it leads to this idea of humility, leading alongside, not standing out in front of someone. But if you can support someone, you can understand them. And then like what you just said about, connecting with people or listening.
Yeah.
Listening and communing. I mean, communing often has sort of maybe a religious overtone for people, but the base meaning is to be able to connect with someone else, to understand them. And that's going to happen by conversation and dialogue and listening. Yeah. And like going back into the coaching thing to sort of wrap up this thought, if I overtalk my client, I'm not going to hear what they are dealing with. The thing that I've learned really well is when I ask a question as a reflection of something that they've said, which is often very challenging and annoys them, but they delight in it at the same time, is then zip. Yeah. And make the space for them to feel, I mean, this is a big thing right now. We all need to feel some sort of safety in being able to share our opinions, even if we're concerned. Am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing? Am I going to offend this person? But the simplest thing is to say, I'm sorry. I realize I made a mistake. Yeah. And go from there.
It's just, you're right. It's a little tougher nowadays as the world has become a little bit more turbulent, and maybe we're sharing ideas to a point where it gets folks so that they feel they have to respond, and that's a whole different subject. But it's made me actually. I keep a lot to myself, to be honest with you. I'll argue if I feel like there's a chance that we might change minds or come to some sort of middle ground. But when I don't feel that, then I tend to withdraw a little bit when it comes to that kind of debate.
I think where were we this year? So I think it was last year, sometime in the summer last year, I sort of made the decision, oh my gosh, I have to pull back whenever I feel like, I've got to respond to this. Notice that. It was just a practice. Notice that. And I would start typing out something on Twitter or comment on Medium. And I'd be like, delete. Yeah. And then this is the thing about practicing a new behavior. We'll always screw it up sometime. It'll be a reminder of how far we've come. And then there was something that happened in December, I think, where somebody had commented and they were just trying to be aggravating and they were trying to be antagonistic on something I wrote. And it was so ridiculous. It wasn't even about the content. It was about the title. They were saying that my title was clickbait. And it's like, clickbait is only clickbait if you don't make your promise or fulfill your promise within the content, right? And I fulfilled the promise within the content and then some. But I was just playing with a title. Anyway, I lost it. But I had been out for a couple drinks that night and I made the mistake of reading my email, walking on the way home. It's like 2 steps wrong, Darren. So I just promptly deleted all of that and like, okay, it just reminded me of how easy it is to get upset, and that if you're not in your right state of mind, had a couple drinks or whatever, or overtired, you can't communicate in a way that potentiates connection and understanding.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. I can relate. Yeah, I have had the exact same scenario.
I think we all can, yeah.
But you've been in this industry for many years, longer than I have. But back in the early mid '90s, you were with Pink Triangle Press, who most of us know with Extra Magazine and so forth. But I mean, you've got quite a history with us in this community.
Yeah, I was living in Ottawa, Ontario, and I had just come back from Germany. I was a year abroad, had won a 10-month scholarship to work on my master's. Yeah. And I had proposed basically what today would be called a queer theory topic, but didn't have that name back then. And it was unfortunately too advanced. I didn't have the right resources, even in the advisor that I chose to work with. And I came back that summer, and there was an advertisement in Gays of Ottawa magazine that Extra, Pink Triangle Press, was going to open Capital Extra magazine in Ottawa. So I think called Toronto, got the information. Brandon Matheson was the publisher. I said, can I come on in and talk to you? And I started volunteering there. Yeah. And then I got a full-time job in the office December of that year. And then I have had so many different positions, and eventually moved to Toronto in 1997 on Pride weekend, of all horrible weekends to choose to move. And then within about a year, I became the director of audio text, which is just a fancy title. I managed the adult telephony, the telepersonal systems, which had the name Cruise Line, which is perfectly apt for, and that's when we met people on the telephone, because there was no internet.
I remember all that stuff very well, but no, their whole team, they're very near and dear to my heart. I've been in their lives since probably around the same time when you had started. So our paths may have crossed somewhere along the way, and we didn't even realize it.
They absolutely must have. Yeah.
But tell me about skipping back to where we're at today. You have a program called Ideation. It's for queer creatives and thought leaders. But tell me about that.
Well, Ideation is, it means a couple of different things. Ideation is the formation of ideas and concepts. And I've sort of, branding is the wrong word, but it's like all caps idea and then TION in brackets. So idea for me is an acronym: insight, direction, and emotional alignment. And what I've discovered in developing my coaching model from everything I've learned, and in the clients that seem to find me, is that everybody's a creative in some way. So ideation is that step of allowing the space for ideas to come through, or through coaching to just get rid of any blocks or self-doubt or whatever the case may be. But then from the neuroscience perspective, once you've got the ideation, once you've got that insight, the insight is the thing, okay, let's work with this. Then we want to find the strategies, which we could say is the direction, how you're going to do what it is you want to do, how you can build upon the neuro associations you already have. And that's just a fancy word of saying, if you've got particular habits and behaviors or skills, well, instead of starting something from scratch, which can be really hard and provide a lot of resistance, what can you build upon so that it's easier? That allows for self-propelling momentum. And emotional alignment is another aspect of neuroscience. When we really know why we want what we want, and we can get either into our feelings, which is our cognitive observation of our programs, our drives, and our emotions, then in those toughest of times, you'll know why it is you're doing what you want to do. And if you keep getting blocked, maybe you're not that clear about what it is you want to feel in relation to doing that thing. And it sounded, almost sounds touchy-feely as it's coming out of my mouth. But anytime we've had these kinds of insights in a client session, there's always just been this intake of breath, or this silent sort of observation on their part, the awareness of like, this is how I want to feel. And if you can feel more peace of mind or contentment and freedom and happiness in your work, how much easier is that work going to be? Given that there's still going to be the crap you're going to have to deal with day to day, but otherwise.
No, that's really good. I think I think that really, in a nutshell, kind of it helps explain, the purpose and reason why we would have someone like you in our lives in terms of from the business perspective. And I love all this. And but most importantly, I'm looking forward to when you and I are able to connect in the real world here soon, because we both travel a lot, and I know I've been to Toronto many times, so I know that will happen along the way.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I just had a meeting with Michael Bach, who I've had on my podcast a couple of times this week. I was like, oh my God, give me a hug, because, I've now spoken to you so many times, but I've never actually met you in person, even though we live in the same damn city, but we haven't been able to meet.
His book just arrived yesterday in my mailbox. So I'm going to hopefully start to read that this weekend.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But no, thanks so much for being here with us and kind of sharing a bit of your story with our audience. And like I said, look forward to seeing you soon.
Likewise. And I really like what you're doing, and I appreciate all your visibility across Twitter and LinkedIn and how you're so willing and, the way in which you meaningfully engage with other creatives and useful, helpful, delightful information that you think is of interest to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Good seeing you here.
Thanks, Matt.
And it feels good, so good.